baby. Get up, get up, get up.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to Under the Arc Sports. I'm Johnny. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
I'm David.
And I'm Eric.
So we're going to go ahead and give a talk about a St. Louis legend born in St. Louis, and he just announced his retirement, and Mike Shannon. So we're going to go ahead and give a little conversation about Mike Shannon, share some Shannonisms and some stories because, you know, patriarch of the Cardinal Nation family. So we got to talk about him. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm going to miss his voice on the airwaves.
Yeah, his 50th year, man. That's longer than Jack Buck was the Cardinals announcer, which is kind of weird to think about, probably even weirder for someone like our parents' age. Yeah, it's just a St. Louis legend. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, I'm gonna you always like the progression of the Shannon's voice throughout the innings is something I'm gonna forever miss too.
Well, that and at the beginning of the season, I always look forward to hearing just the Steve Wright called. You know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's the only one who ever said it that way.
Yeah, and it's just him being casual. I think it's worth mentioning before we get into too many stories. The dude was a good player, right? So he played from 1962 to 1970. For those who don't know, he was forced to retire after the 1970 season when he was only 31 years old. He had it was a kidney issue that forced him into retirement, and he was a good player. He was part of 2 world championship teams, and he was 7th in the MVP voting in 1968. So he was a good player.
And guys, baseball may not even been his best sport.
That's crazy when you sit down and think about it, especially back then. You know, like he could have been like the Bo Jackson and the Deion Sanders and the Brian Jordan before they even came in, if you really wanted to be.
Right.
Seemed like to me, at least, you know. So it's like just seemed like an outstanding athlete. The end of what I found most interesting was when I was reading about the end of his career, about almost being traded to the Phillies and being lumped in with a Cepeda, and then it was that a physical that basically found out the mass on his kidney or whatever. So it's like that's very interesting to me. And then the next year he's in the booth, and that's when it was born. That's when the voice was born. So
yeah,
well,
very interesting story.
And if you're talking about the stories as well, his first couple of years in the booth were just terrible. But I mean, look who he got to learn under. He got to learn under Joe Buck. He worked with Harry Carey a little bit. Jack Buck. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, and he had built his own way of delivering a game to everybody, and it's worth considering because, like you said, he worked under Jack Buck. That's who he learned from, was Jack Buck, who was kind of this elegant statesman of a broadcaster, similar to how like a Vin Scully was for the Dodgers. That's not Mike Shannon. And to his credit, he didn't try to do that. Yeah. He was more of an everyman kind of broadcaster. I would say more similar to Harry Carey.
Very much so.
And, taking a look at some of his Shannonisms, the one that comes to mind for me, just looking at the list, is there's one time some guy hits a fly ball to the warning track, and Mike Shannon just says, "Well, if you'd have had a couple of strips for bacon at breakfast, that'd have been a home run." It is so silly and so random, but
what inning was it in?
Job of illustrating that was that close to being a home run.
That's not even a lie. Like, if he probably would have ate a couple strips of bacon, you know.
Well, it's like one of his more famous ones. He's like, the moon here in New York is really awesome tonight. I wish you all in St. Louis could see it.
Yeah.
It's raining so hard, I thought it was going to stop.
I noticed a lot of these, a lot of the ones where I laughed the hardest involved Joe Buck. When Joe Buck was doing it, early 90s, mid 90s, getting his start. And he would just look at Mike Shannon, and you could just see Joe Buck looking over, just like, what are you saying? And then he'd give some silly reply where Joe Buck mentions, hey, there are some French foreign exchange students over in section 382. Shannon missed in the part where he says French, as oh, where are they from? And Joe Buck just said, France, I think. That was a lot of the goofy stuff that he would do. He would miss one word, but it was the most important word. And he'd ask a question or respond to something, and all of a sudden you've got an absolute gem of a line.
Oh, man.
It's raining like a Chinese fire drill.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what that means.
You can't argue with the weather. That's what he means. You can't argue with the weather.
Yeah, it's going to be different, but Cardinals fans have kind of been eased into it. It's been 4 or 5 years where he's only been doing home games.
Yeah.
And,
and even this last year, he did like half the home games. He didn't even do all the games.
Yeah, I think I read in 2019 he did 50 games.
Well, and I think the thing I'm going to miss the most is kind of like what Johnny was saying earlier, is just his voice change and like how he calls the game as the game goes on. Like, I know the last year or two he kind of like laid off the alcohol, but before that, like,
That's
you could
fun.
tell when he had a little too much.
Yeah.
As a game
Usually and if he had somebody in a booth, like a guest or somebody, that's when it was really cool too. You know what I mean? Because then you really got to see his, guess you could say, his hair let down, and you know what I mean. He's just kind of having fun up there, doing it for so long. Like it's really crazy when you think about how long he's been doing it. He's seen some things too, like going through like all the players' deaths to his Jack Buck to Derek Kyle. You know what I mean? So he's seen some things too, so we're gonna miss him for sure. We're very spoiled as a baseball organization, which I don't mind, you know what I mean? We just gotta keep humbling ourselves, but not many organizations can say that, we've had staples behind a mic like we have, especially in baseball.
They also can't say with the range of the mic, because you got to think this is on KMOX, which can cover the whole country at night pretty much.
Yeah, especially back then with the KMOX reach back then was so much bigger.
Yeah, that's why like Cardinal Nation is so huge, is because of these voices on the radio.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, talking about Mike Shannon dealing with guests in the booth. That reminded me of this one thing I read one time where some guys from Mizzou were visiting the booth to promote something. And they walk in at the half inning or whatever, and they're getting headsets put on and getting set for when the broadcast comes back. And Mike Shannon recognizes that they're from Mizzou. Shannon went to Mizzou, and first thing out of his mouth to these college boys was, "Hey boys, how you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, good, we're doing good. How's those Stevens girls?" For those who aren't familiar with Columbia, Stevens College is not officially all girls, but effectively it's all girls.
I would say 99% of it is all girls.
Yeah. So, I'm sure those guys got a good chuckle. And, we talked about him going to Mizzou. He almost played football there. The former coach, Dan Devine, wanted him to play and said he was really upset when he chose baseball. Shannon said there was more money in baseball. And Dan Devine said, if he would have stayed, I think he may have won the Heisman Trophy. So that's how good he was at both sports. As we were talking about earlier, Johnny, you were talking about what if he would have tried to do both? Could he have been the original Deion Sanders, Bo Jackson, Brian Jordan?
Yeah.
So that's something that, a big what if, I guess, in Cardinals history. But either way, he's got an all-time legacy for the Cardinals.
He does.
And the question is, do you think they'll put a statue of him next to Jack Buck outside the stadium?
They better.
A bottle of whiskey.
No. It's a frosty cold one they're going to put next to him. Bud Light.
It's the reason, man. He strikes me as a Scotch drinker. The way the voice just kind of got more and more casual. As those street eyes were like, going a little bit longer as the innings went on.
Another one of his Shannonisms that always made me laugh is he would be calling like a fly ball, and he'd think it'd be a home run. So he'd be like, and this ball is out of here, and it was caught at the warning track. He did that quite a lot.
Yeah, but at the same time, there were a lot of times where you could tell it's just how familiar he was seeing a ball, and he could recognize something immediately, where he would, instead of swinging a deep fly ball, this one's out of here, like a broadcaster might normally do, he just kind of swing and a home run.
Yeah, he did do that a lot too. He's like, and that one's gone. Anyway, he will be missed. He put a phenomenal career together, and we wish him well in his retirement. This is Under the Arch Sports. Thank you for watching.
See you guys next time.